My year-end bonus arrived, $15,000. My boyfriend excitedly asked me to treat him to a big meal, and I agreed. But after we finished eating at a high-end restaurant, a group of people in black clothes surrounded us. $100,000. Please pay. I was terrified, but I looked through the group of black-clad people and saw Ridley Bell behind them, the former deputy of my father's criminal organization. I rushed forward angrily and said, "My father is the Mafia boss. Ryan Elisa. How dare you?" But I was immediately knocked down. A bitch who only has $10,000 in carry dares to say that she is our boss's child, attempting to flee without paying. Are you aware of whose territory this is? A man snarled, his tone low and threatening, reminiscent of a predator poised to strike. He stood menacingly, his body tense and ready for confrontation. The subdued lighting above cast long shadows across the lavish dining area. Everything sparkled, gilded decorations, crystal light fixtures. But beneath the opulence lurked an undercurrent of peril, a snare disguised as splendor. A cluster of thugs encircled me, their gazes cold and calculating. One drew near, the blade of a butcher's knife grazing my shoulder with unsettling precision, as if testing its edge. I tensed, trying to quell the tremor coursing through me, but dread gripped me tightly, making it hard to draw breath. My thoughts whirled. Was this some form of blackmail? No wonder a few dishes and a bottle of wine had cost $100,000. Inhaling deeply to steady my nerves, I inquired, as evenly as I could manage, "Where has my boyfriend gone? What happened to him?" My voice wavered slightly, betraying my facade of calm. If not for Hobbs, who had insisted on dining at this establishment, I would never have ventured into such a remote location. Certainly the restaurant exuded luxury, plush crimson seats, tables draped in immaculate white linens, and an intimate atmosphere that exuded exclusivity, but nothing had seemed amiss at first glance. I had assumed my $15,000 bonus would easily cover the expense. I hadn't anticipated this turn of events. At the mention of Hobbs, one of the thugs sneered, a malicious grin twisting his features. "Searching for him? Pointless. He's the one who instructed us to bind you, claimed you were an easy target too, worth not just $100,000 but $1 million. Another added with a derisive chuckle. Evidently he was mistaken. What misfortune. The revelation hit me like a blow. Hobbs had betrayed me. The man I had trusted had lured me into a trap, then vanished without a trace. My heart constricted with a mixture of hurt and disbelief, but I had no time to dwell on it. "If we can't extract the money, we'll simply sell you to a massage parlor to recoup our losses," one thug jeered, his voice laced with crude amusement. At the mention of a massage parlor, terror surged through me, breaking through my stupor. I shouted, straining against my bonds, "Stop! This is abduction and extortion. You can't do this. Release me." The thug nearest to me laughed, a harsh grating sound like metal scraping concrete. "Release you? If you object to the massage parlor, fine, pay up. Otherwise, I have plenty of other options." He leaned in, seizing my throat with an iron grip. His fingers dug painfully into my skin, choking off my air supply as he forced my head into a nearby water container. Frigid water engulfed my face, flooding my nose and mouth. My lungs burned as I flailed, desperate for oxygen. Just as I felt consciousness slipping away, he yanked me back up and I gasped, coughing violently, my chest heaving for air. "I'll pay," I sputtered, my voice raspy, "but I don't have that sum on hand. Allow me to make a call. I can arrange for someone to deliver the money." I wasn't being dishonest. The majority of my savings were with my mother. All I had in my account was the $15,000 bonus, and that was far from sufficient. Even if they took my life, I couldn't conjure $100,000 out of nowhere. Before I could continue, a stocky man with a thick beard stepped forward and struck me across the face. The blow stung sharply and my head jerked to the side. "Dressed in high-end designer clothing and you expect us to believe you can't afford $100,000? He sneered, his tone dripping with disdain. "Who do you think you're deceiving?" He towered over me, eyes narrowing suspiciously. "You want to place a call? Don't imagine I'm unaware of your intentions. If you dare alert the authorities, you're finished." Another thug, visibly agitated, shifted restlessly and muttered, "Boss, stop wasting time. Let's just send her to the massage parlor already. With her appearance, she'll command more than $100,000. I squinted through the pain and the fog of fear at the man they addressed as boss. Recognition dawned on me like a sudden revelation. Ridley Bell, one of my father's former lieutenants. Ryan Elisa, my father, a mafia boss dreaded by many, but to me, he had always been something else, a doting, overprotective dad who had showered me with affection and presence, despite the violent underworld he commanded. My mother was coerced into a union with my father, resulting in my birth. Their marriage lacked affection, and my mother eventually left him, unable to tolerate his controlling behavior. Even as a youngster, I could feel the strain in our household, the endless quarrels, the menacing presence of my father's unlawful activities. When my parents separated, I had the opportunity to choose, and I opted to stay with my mother. I couldn't bear my father's constant aggression, or the ever-present threat of his illicit operations. Once, during one of my infrequent visits to his residence, my father's typically hard gaze softened as he tearfully vowed to give up his criminal lifestyle. For me, he implored me to stay, assuring me he could change, but I departed anyway, and years passed without communication. Now, facing this grim predicament, the cruel irony of his broken promise struck me forcefully. His associates were still engaged in their old ways, and now they had gone so far as to abduct me. Had I not been studying overseas for so long, or if my eyesight were better, perhaps I would have recognized Ridley and his cronies earlier. The realization was painful, leaving me both astonished and enraged. "Ridley, have you gone mad? How could you kidnap me?" I exclaimed, my voice quivering with a blend of terror and anger. Upon hearing my outburst, gasped. One of the henchmen hesitated, clearly surprised, before advancing towards me. Without warning, he struck me across the face, the impact causing my head to jerk sideways. Agony spread across my cheek and tears formed in my eyes. You must have a death wish. How dare you address the boss by his name? The thug snarled, his fist clenched, ready to strike again. Ridley swiftly intervened, pushing the thug back. Wait, he said, his expression somber and cautious as he turned to face me. How do you know my name? For a moment, I thought he had identified me. I took a risk and shouted, because I'm Ryan's daughter. Release me now, or my father will make you suffer when he finds out. The instant those words left my lips, Ridley's wary expression transformed into something far more ominous, mockery. He let out a harsh chuckle, his eyes glinting with disbelief. You? Claiming to be the Don's daughter? You must be joking. Exasperated, I balled my fists, disregarding the stinging sensation in my cheek. I truly am Ryan's daughter, Ariel, I insisted, my voice rising desperately. Ridley's sneer intensified as he roughly seized my collar, yanking me closer until our faces were mere inches apart. His breath carried a faint scent of tobacco, and something sour, making me feel nauseous. Your credit card is issued to one Ariel Dillon. You're no relative, he spat, his voice dripping with disdain. I hurriedly explained, I was Ariel Alyssa. Now I go by Ariel Dillon because I adopted my mother's surname after the divorce. If you don't believe me, check my phone's wallpaper. It's a picture of my father and me. My heart raced as I spoke. Ridley had been my father's right-hand man back then. He must have known my mother's name. But to my dismay, his sneer only grew colder. Without hesitation, he grabbed a heavy wooden club lying nearby and swung it forcefully against my shin. Pain surged through my leg, sharp and unbearable, and I gasped, nearly collapsing from the impact. The boss and the missus have always been in love, Ridley hissed through gritted teeth. How could they divorce? If you spread such lies again, I'll rip your mouth off. I stared at him in disbelief, barely registering the searing pain in my leg. Then it dawned on me. My father had kept the divorce a secret. He didn't want anyone speaking ill of my mother or giving his enemies reason to gloat, but that decision was now coming back to haunt me. Just then, a lackey handed my phone to Ridley. My pulse quickened, a glimmer of hope igniting within me. If he saw the wallpaper, he'd have to recognize me. He couldn't deny the evidence right in front of him. Ridley examined the phone intently, his eyes narrowing as he compared the photo to me. For a long moment, he remained silent, and I dared to hope. But then he spat at me in disgust, his lip curling in contempt. Unbelievable. You've been deceiving me this whole time. You expect me to believe a photoshopped picture of you with the boss? I opened my mouth to argue, but he cut me off. The real Rubio was overweight, he said with a sneer. You, with your social media ready face, dare to pretend to be her. Raising the club again, Ridley prepared to strike. Terror paralyzed me. It was true. I used to be heavy, but after high school, my mother had enrolled me in a rigorous weight loss program. I shed 50 pounds, learned proper makeup application, and refined my appearance. Hearing people commend me for slimming down and looking attractive had once filled me with pride. Now that same transformation had become a cruel joke. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly at the irony, the sound trembling as it escaped my lips. Just as Ridley was about to bring the club down again, a heavily made-up woman with bold red lipstick and thick eyeliner stepped forward, placing a hand on his arm. Boss, what if this little minx is the boss's mistress? If you harm her and the boss becomes angry, what then? She suggested with a sly smile, her voice tinged with caution. Before she could continue, Ridley shot her a murderous glare. Are you out of your mind too? The boss and the missus are in love. There's no way he'd keep a mistress. He turned back to me, his eyes blazing with fury. Now, even if she pays the bill, she's not leaving, he growled. I can't stand homewreckers like her. Ridley's lips curled into a wicked grin as he barked commands. Disfigure her face. We'll see if she still claims to be the Don's daughter after that. A pair of ruffians approached me, their faces twisted with malicious intent. One of them revealed a sharp knife that glinted menacingly in the dim light. My limbs were securely bound, the coarse rope digging into my flesh. Fear coursed through my veins as I gasped for air, futilely attempting to break free. The pungent mix of booze and cheap perfume from the surrounding men made me feel nauseous. I swear I'm Ryan's child, I cried out, my voice cracking with fear. He'll make you pay if you hurt me. The room crackled with tension, but my words only seemed to entertain them. With a sinister laugh, one thug tore at my clothing, the fabric ripping loudly. A chill ran over my newly exposed skin, filling me with dread. How dare you try to deceive us? Start begging for mercy, though it won't help you, Ridley taunted, clearly relishing my distress. I fought back tears, determined to stay strong. Just as I steeled myself for the worst, a loud pounding on the door interrupted the scene. Boss, the Don has arrived, someone yelled from outside. He's selecting a private room for a birthday celebration and wants to see you.